Interesting. So anti-gravity is forming to the structure of Jules and Claude, and I can update it with the Git repo. So I'm wondering what's the smartest thing that I can do today, actually, because it's kind of working. So it's identifying the vulnerabilities with the mathematical model. And then the AI is completely right, because this is just the framework, the fundamental math of the code. It's not taking context into account. Because a safety system's only relative to understanding itself and the environment it's in. But with a generic math system, it's like making a foundation for everything, but without a use case for it. I wonder what happens. I want to try and challenge anti-gravity a little bit today, because I haven't been able to use it yet, and I'm really tempted to start paying for a more better model. I'm supposed to be working on the black box protocols and automation testing, so let's make sure that the black box is actually working. This should build. I believe the automation tests, 5 out of 30 of them are failing. So let's figure that out. Oh, this coffee is not working for me today. So this is why I haven't made too many videos recently, because not only am I trying to get the multi-agent thing working, but I've also been trying to get models working, asynchronous models loading, and a bunch of other things. So let's just focus on one thing at a time before I get overwhelmed. And let's run the sovereign tests and the save system tests, which I've been building. So if we run these 30 tests, the system doesn't crash anymore, which is good. I'm gonna have to fix the shaders as well. So I believe if we go to the tests folder, Okay, so I am able to create timestamps in JSON logic. It's not quite the way I need it to be though. That was my last crash log, so that's not important anymore. I don't think I need these anymore. So if I feed this into anti-gravity, let's see what happens. So it's trained on the AI nexus, so it's aware of the other two agents. It's aware of the mathematical principles. I wonder if it's aware of the DevOps systems. Okay, so ugh. So inside this folder is all the code for the Unreal simulations. I have been making tests. I've been making automation tests for the new code black box. Can you analyze the core code for Unreal 5.7.3 and give me a report. Let's see what it's aware of before we start firing coding commands. I think is probably the better way. I don't want you to start doing all this rubbish. I want to make a note of the potential volume things. Oh, come on. And while it's doing that, because I don't really trust anti-gravity at the moment, let's go to my favorite AI model and let's see how Jules is doing today. So with Jules, she's trained a hell of a lot better. So let's make sure we're in WIP's core and ask her to do a systems report on the main branch, I believe. So let's go to GitHub. This one, let's double check we're working in the main branch because I don't know if I consolidated the last code. 3 days ago, 8 ahead. Local issue. What's happening with this local issue, eh? Close this. Go into this. Let's clean up the repo, shall we? VS binaries. And all of this needs to be deleted. That's if I want to use Copilot, which I'm not using right now. So, save all of that. VS intermediate, get rid of those two. Get rid of that. What's inside of here? this is already done. Implementation is done, so that no longer needs to be there because we do that all inside the AI Nexus now. Let's check. What's happening on the local issue. Got quite a few changes. Is that because I'm deleting all the... Yeah, I'm deleting all the rubbish. Stable. Fixed. Automation. Crash. 5 fails still. At least we're failing and not crashing. The automation tests no longer crash the engine, however, 5 of them are failing due to bad JSON parse. Let's commit that, push that. We need a refresh. Come in here and probably merge this into main. Do we want the triple IF models is the question. It's just huge JSON files really, isn't it? Getting rid of all that rubbish. These are all the warning logs, so we don't have to care too much about that. Just get her done, I reckon. The node returns the output path to the generated file. And then this would feed into the digital museum, my dear. It's starting to work. So we can bring in the model. We can assign the model to our U object. So we can interact with it. And then we can feed in a black box of timeline data, so we could almost like say, here's a 3D model of the Titanic, and here is the black box we found from the ship, so we could replay where it was in the world and when it sounded the alarms and when it crashed and all that jazz. So we're getting there, that's for sure. So let's ask Jules to figure out where she is before we continue. So I always start Jules with 07, it's like a salute. And instead of just like vibe code and be like, oh, please do this, please do that, da 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 da. It's like, go through the system, figure out where you are, give me a report like an officer, and then I can give you an order to make sure that there is comprehension. So this will take some time. Oh, I'm gonna have a nice cup of coffee while this goes, because I just don't have the brain power to go full speed today. I really want to see how good this anti-gravity is. And this is what I get all the time. It's just our servers are full, servers are full, servers are full. I'm wondering if I'm going to have to pay for the Pro. Like, but then if I'm paying for the Pro, is it going to actually bring me value? That's what I want to know. It does find stuff though. So let's just get Notepad open for a second, because I want to see what was actually said. Oh. And I believe anti-gravity does have the ability to make new files and folders and stuff, so it's going to be more powerful than Claude. At least with the way I've got this working. Oh. This is why I like Jules. She tells you each thing she's going through. She doesn't get caught up on nonsense, and I've never been able to really use all of her daily session tokens. This is the breakthrough really, is this command SOP. Standard operating procedure. It's been making sure that my AIs don't crash, particularly between Jules and Claude. Oh man. Should remove the tags of 3D modeling, because we're not going to do any of that today. I feel that I'm moving away from vibe coding. AI was giving me a command the other day that the things that I was doing was moving away from conventional file coding, vibe coding, because I'm not relying on the prompts, but rather the file structure and the architecture to get things done. And I've noticed that the hallucination is happening a lot less now, when AI is doing a lot more code than it was last year. I've gone from AI doing like maybe 20% of my code and more like vibe learning to actually like having an understanding of the structure that I'm creating. So Jules has done exactly what she's supposed to do. She's read through everything, and now she's asking for what persona I want to actually get the job done, and she's highlighted that the main priority right now is the black box protocol. So we probably want the tactician, because I want to feed it the... See, now I'm at crossroads, right? I can either A, figure out what's happening with the automation testing of why it's failing, or I can give it instructions on how we can improve the mathematics. Alright, so this one's going to be tactician. And we should... $13, $15, that's not what we want. We don't want that. Logs. CEF3. CEF3.log. CEF3.log. And we paste the information. The automation tests are no longer failing, no longer crashing the system. However, 5 tests are failing. Please do not start coding. Explain to me why this is happening so we can go over the code together and plan the correct changes. So the tactician is going to be working on the automation tests, and then I'm going to make another one off the main repo, and this time I'm going to go 07 researcher. I have been adding anti-gravity to the mix of AI agents. I got them to reflect on the PSTA Math system. I agree with anti-gravity. And where is that reflection that they gave? Here. No, I don't want to close, I just want to delete this bit, thank you. Please do not start coding. I want to reflect with you and this feedback. The problem is we can't make a unified model without a use case, as each of the dimensions PSTA will have a weighting and a threshold based on the user and the environment. Is it feasible at this stage to make a generic threshold class? So if events happen, we sound an alarm and log it. We do not need to run a function at this stage. We primarily want to create a warning for the user. So if I'm making a metaphor, it should add it to the research metaphor folder. If we were on the Titanic, the famous ship that crashed, if a LiDAR camera was on the front of the ship and identified the base mode. It would sound a physical alarm on the ship in the real world and log it to the black box with a timestamp. If this alarm was not bypassed or acknowledged by Alright, so we should have two agents running now. So we've got our researcher, and we've got our tactician, and we're testing to see how useful anti-gravity is all at the same time. But we don't want them to start programming without sense, right? So, the tactician's come back and says it's analysed the log. My assessment is the 5 failures likely stemming from a combination of environment friction and the architectural mismatch. Critical failure opening key result 5 and unable to create a sequential file. Why? Impact Windows result 5 access denied. The black box relies on the wiring to the save black box directory. If the automation runner lacks write permission or the directory is locked as hinted by Chromium IO errors, any test expected a file to be created should create a black box file and first snapshot will fail. IO access. The Chromium IO errors. I'm gonna have to look into that. Since AACTA does not implement before I set plan, deterministic. Okay, this is where I think a lot of people go wrong with AI systems, is they don't have deterministic alignment. So if there's any ambiguity, the AI runs off, and then you get big bloated errors in the future. Okay, so are the automation beginning run in a clean environment, or is it possible the same state as read-only files from a previous crash? This relates to the result of 5 errors. Okay. Mock actor versus concrete vessel. For the PSTA test, do you want me to use a concrete class like interactable, which implements the interface, or should I create a specialized mock sovereignator within the test file to isolate the logic? We want to isolate the logic. IO permissions. Does the account running the automation have full administration right access to the save directory? I don't know. We don't want high delta login right now. Should the test verify the bottleneck law scaling PSS to 0 when a dimension is unstable, or just some value was recorded. How would I know if it's read only? 1, 2. Yes, we want to isolate the logic. This black box would only be used to simulate objects have provided us with the .json log to recreate them in the simulation. This shouldn't apply to every actor in the scene, only special ones. 3. I don't know. 4. It's asking really good questions, this tactician now. Dealing with the tactician sure is difficult, but it is getting easier. Okay, so let's see what it says with that, and let's go to the researcher. Oh, it's coming back with a lot. Has reached a high degree of theoretical maturity, particularly the gated min PSS and high risk velocity integrations. However, as you noted, it currently lacks a human in the loop bridge, which is correct. The protocol that transitions a mathematical anomaly into a situational warning and eventually autonomous action. The missing priority defined the generic threshold architecture that facilitates the Titanic safety workflow. Detection alarm acknowledges intervention. Yes. So it's auditing the core mathematics, and it's reflected on the generic flesh threshold. The class of the Titanic metaphor to ensure absolute certainty before I move forward towards a plan. I have several questions to clarify the soul of the new system. Hierarchy thresholds. Should the generic threshold be tied to specific meta tags? Telemetry.water depth is greater than 1,000, or to the PSD dimensions themselves? Dimension T under 0.4, or should it support both? 1. Oh, that's a really good question. hierarchy of thresholds. Should the generic threshold be tied to a specific meta tag or to the dimensions themselves? Wouldn't the tag be a part of the dimensions? I believe the PSTA math model you have works on a 4-bit matrix. However, ideally we would need an n-bit matrix. For example, if the Titanic had ×2 LiDAR, the acknowledgement state. You mentioned the CaptaMax acknowledge the alarm mathematically. Does an acknowledge alarm act as a temporary anchor tag that forces DI, dimension I, to a lower value, or is it a separate Boolean state that the AI checks before executing steer avoid iceberg? If a captain has Ooh, I understand what it's saying here. So what it's saying is the generic threshold. Do you envision this as a new data asset, as in a threshold configuration that maps tags to alarm levels, or should we expand the existing math tag to include warning threshold, alarm threshold, and required clearance? I envision that every forget the number of this. Lion Air Flight 610, thank you. Because of one sensor, the aeroplane crashed to the ground. Do you see that? Between the two metaphors. Alright, so when the Titanic glider detects the iceberg, should the black box entry be standard telemetry log or a specialized event log to ensure it stands out for forensic analysis? Yeah, so my first prototype, it was a specialized log. Yeah. So it needs to be a specialized event log, which is an easy one to answer. 5. You mentioned creating a warning for the user at this stage. Are we strictly talking about the log or debug print and a state change in the code, or should we need to provide a hook for the UI to listen for these alarms? Don't care right now. Time relative truth. The Titanic metaphor emphasizes the AI's intervention is relative to the time and truth. Does this mean the threshold class needs to track time since alarm trigger to determine the AI is allowed to take control? Yes, 100%. It's thinking on the right mark now. Jesus, the AI's gone absolutely mental with this initial command. So getting the AIs to actually talk between each other and analyze the code is actually kind of good, because some of them have strengths and weaknesses and different responses. Jules is better at the bigger architectural vision and the research, but Claude is better at like automation testing. Anti-gravity, I'm not sure at the moment, because I'm just getting a lot. Oh, it is actually doing its work and not crashing anymore. That's good to know. Let's worry about that later. It's doubling itself up. Why is Jules tripling itself up? It's done the audit. It's asked me 6 questions. It's done an audit of the Nexus and asked me another 6 questions. This is the first time it's done this. Let's see. I think I kind of just fed it a little bit too much information there, but we'll see what happens. Luckily it's on a separate branch, so if it breaks everything, we can just close it and try again. Okay, and then make sure you add the Titanic metaphor to the AI Nexus under research and the flight 610. 610. Let's see what happens with that one. So that's the research agent that's going to start checking on my math. And the tactician is coming back with work to do. Okay, so what does it want to do? It wants to update the files for the error on the automation testing. It wants to add file persistent flag so we can make a snapshot so we're not sending it all the time. And implement a mock actor, create a test case where it checks my score, Let's see what it does. So that's probably going to take this a while. Let's go back to my repo and check the AI Nexus under research. Has it added any metaphors yet? No, it's just the principles and stuff. So this should be updated according to the research one. And that should be dandy. Let's see what anti-gravity is, because today's goal was to really figure out how good anti-gravity is. Because during the week I never get any chance to use it because it's too busy. And I don't want to pay for it unless I like it. So it likes the new interface that I've been building, but there's a critical flaw in the automation test. It shouldn't be using the generic AA actor. It should be using my actor system that I've made. Would you like me to implement the fixes? Well, it wants to try and implement the fixes. And it made a file, so I can... So has it made this file, or is it just proposing to make this file? Oh, anti-gravity's not bad. But it's making it as a resolved file. So how would I open this? Okay. I bet Claude would like this. So let's actually just check what we've actually got going with this test before we start getting the AI to just program everything and run away with itself. God. You have to be really careful giving orders to these AIs, because that one little bit, it's like throwing a dart with AI, right? So imagine if you're trying to hit a bullseye, but time is always moving, right? So if I was to give a command to the AI, and I'm throwing the dart to hit the bullseye, right? If there's any deviation, over time it becomes exponential. So you need to nip it in the butt sooner, so you're always doing like this kind of thing, right? Where you're trying to hit the bullseye, but any deviation over time becomes exponential. So you always want to go back, test, unit test, automation test, play test. Otherwise, you're going to go down the road, and the next thing you know, you're going to have like 57 errors, and nothing is going to work or communicate with each other. So at least nothing's crashing, everything is stable. If we don't get Claude involved just yet, So this branch of my code, there's not a lot of gameplay at the moment because I'm just trying to build everything for my simulation right now. So these astronauts come from IIIF, which is like a group that does digital heritage. Eventually I want to bring in like dinosaur bones and stuff, but this kind of explains the situation that I'm trying to get across. So if I press play, you'll see that this object here, I'm not able to identify this actor. It won't have any interaction or anything inside of it. This, however, will. I'll be able to identify the model, and I can actually possess this model and take over its script, right? But if I was to get into... where is it? This object, and I'm to bring in, and if I was to change the code so that this updates like this on runtime once it's loaded in from an API, so you go, oh, I want to see a dinosaur bone. It goes in with the code, right? And then once it's finished buffering, it will replace it with this static mesh. So if you look at this one, I can't use any of my interactive faces on it, but here I can. I can identify what I've hit and if it has any interaction script inside of it. So I could come up to it, press E on the dinosaur bone, and it would be like, oh, this is a T-Rex bone. So then I could start bringing up UI and checking the metadata against it. So if we look what comes in, currently the IIIF doesn't include any of the metadata manifest, so I wouldn't be able to build any of the interaction layers yet. But that's not what we're doing today. What we're trying to do is this rubbish, the real boring part of programming. Making sure everything's stable and the framework. I'm not one of them programmers that go and make something really pretty and then wonder why down the road nothing works and everything becomes really difficult. Everything I've got is very scalable, it's tested, and it's easy to build stuff in the future. But what I really want is the sovereign one, because these black box ones are going to fail. So if we run these automation tests, you'll see that the engine doesn't crash anymore, and I've got 5 failures. And I believe these failures are happening because I don't have systems permission to create a new file and move it if a file already exists. But what it does mean is that I wonder if I was... do I have my save manager in here? Let's do a little bit of testing to see what's actually happening with the JSON logs. No, I don't want that. I want content, assets, no, content, no, where have I got everything? Oh, I saved it under blueprints, I forgot. So we need a living item, let's say this antelope, and we need an object. Let's just say sword for now. Under the save data component, it's going to come in as a object, and it just has the save data component, which is good, and it has all the interaction stuff. Perfect. Okay, so if we bring that sword in, and we need a save terminal as well, that'll do. Let's press play. Where is my save terminal? Okay, I should have saved everything in the scene. Sovereign saves, JSON file, perfect. So we've got the player controller. We know all of its components and all the stats of the components that come with it. We've got its transform. Antelopes are working. Oh good, even the unknown is working. Ah, this is the interesting part. So, we've brought in a sword, we gave nothing to it, and we know it's dormant, we know it's an object, and it's already bringing in the telemetry data. How the hell am I doing that so efficiently? So my objects are already including my black box telemetry data. Why? Surely that should be an option, not standard. Box component as well. So that's how we know the gameplay tags of what it's doing in the scene. Just make sure that whatever tags we have gets saved to the JSON file when we want, so we're not having to manually code everything all the time. This is how we know if the model coming in is trustworthy or not. I don't get how this is working at the moment. It's close to what I want, but it's just not there. Is it because of the base interactable? Ah, this is probably why. Mm-hmm. Ah, this is clever. So the AI is asking me questions inside the comments now. Nice! So I have like context with these things and not just shitloads of prompts all the time where you're losing your mind. So it's asking me here if a base interactable has a controller. And this is kind of easy to explain, right? So if we were to have a game and we were to say this is an object. Now you can't like pretend I've got this mug and I'm invisible, right? I'm like the admin or a ghost, or like, you know, in Counter-Strike when you die you have this like invisible thing that can go around. Now if I wanted to possess this mug can't do anything. This mug can't move, it can't jump, it can't whatever. But if I was to like take over an animal, I do have the ability to control it. So obviously here I wouldn't be able to control that, but I would be able to control this, because this is a character, literally in the Unreal Engine it's a character, while this is a object. And they have different rules inside of the code. See? So if something's a character, it can be possessed. If something's an object, it can't be possessed. got rid of the old interface, so I'm using the universal interface now. Okay, which is much better. This is a base entity. So it goes base entity, which inherits entity interface. So no matter what I touch, I know I'm touching something, and I know where it is in memory and what its name in the level is. So whether I save it or delete it or hit it, I know what I'm picking up or what I'm interacting with as a stable for everything in the game. And I'm pretty sure the character inherits from base entity. Base entity has the interactable, so everything should have the ability to interact and save, but not everything has the ability to be possessed. But my pawns have the ability to move. Okay, so this is kind of working. It's just not as polished as I need it to be. Are the binary logs still working, so I can still save to binary? Yeah, they are. I want to make a load in a test function for binary in addition to .json. Because JSON, you can read it as a fellow human. Binary, you can't really. And we can encrypt binary a lot easier than we can encrypt JSON. So if we wanted to make a save system where people aren't being dodgy and cheating their own game, or whatever, we can. But this save system, after these 2 years of building it, definitely works, and it's so scalable, it's lovely. I can literally save everything in a level with the click of one button or running one function. I don't have to have 101 blueprints like I was doing. And all the components work. What I'm wondering is if I have a black box component. I do. Ooh. And it's using my mathematical model. One byte. That can't be right. I thought I was going to use a 64-bit integer on that. Ah, that's why. So we can just build the cache of the PSTA. This needs to be expanded. Okay, That's not crazy. I kind of like what the AI's done here. It's just hardened the save system, but it's still pretty much the same. So what's this is doing now is, imagine that all my classes and everything are just like empty forms, right? So if I ever wanted to make anything new, whether it's an animal or an object or anything, it always has to fill out in the same form. So if I was to come up with it, I know how I can interact with it because I'm expecting it to be there. But the problem is my code originally, when I was ever spawning anything, would just have empty values. So if anything went dodgy, the system wouldn't know how to save it. This way it's forcing it to have a default value, but if my game or however I spawn or make my gameplay structure, I can override it, so nothing is ever null. So that's why I'm not getting any empty things anymore, which is good. And this subsystem is really kind of simple. All what this is doing is that whenever the spawner has put something in the world or taken something out of the world, it sends it to the subsystem to say, oh, this object is in the scene, right? So if you ever wanted to, in your game, be like, oh, get all the antelopes or get all the animals or whatever, you don't have to like do a for loop through everything. This would just know all of its GUIDs and class types. So I managed to test this and I managed to do like 20,000 objects in less than a second. So this is working really nice now. So my save system works, my interaction system works, my possession system works. It's the loading that's going to be the problem. And eventually I want to plug this in, right? So I've got a Raspberry Pi at the moment. So you can see my Pi. So eventually these sensors are going to be plugged into the real world, right? So that if I was to... basically I could have like a robot playing my game. Or like making a digital twin. Okay, so that's all stable. It's just whether we want to finish doing those unit tests. Sorry, there's not enough coffee in the world to keep me going today. My son has been really struggling with eczema and it's just been a week from hell. So I'm trying to do a little bit slower reflection today rather than just hardcore programming. And a friend of mine's been telling me that anti-gravity is really good, but yeah, I'm not sure. And my black box component is going to be, that needs to be fixed. I wonder if Claude is better at fixing that. This should do it on a separate branch, so let's see if anti-gravity is any good at coding. So sure, go ahead and try fix the automation tests and give me a detailed report/comments on what you have done and why. Make sure you check the let's actually do it this way so it doesn't get confused. Oh, Jules is going a bit crazy. So I'd like to know how Jules compares to anti-gravity with these automation change fixes. To solve the lion-air dilemma, should the generic threshold rule support a required agreement count? Only trigger if n sensors agree the threshold is exceeded. To solve the lion-air dilemma, should the generic threshold rule support a required agreement count? Example, only trigger if n sensors agree the threshold is exceeded. Should the grace period, the time... I see what it's trying to do here now. So firstly, 0. Update the metaphors. .md to include the Titanic and lion air. 610. 1. Because it's specifically talking about the threshold here, it's not talking about the state. So imagine you're flying a plane and you've only got, this is the problem with modern day engineering, is you've got one alternator. So you're going to be fighting against that one alternator. What you really need is two. So if one is acting normally, or the second one isn't, and the pilot is aware of it, you should just override it so that that doesn't account for the autonomous decision making. That's the answer. So, if a captain acknowledges the caution alarm but the telemetry continues to drop into critical theory, should the system re-trigger the alarm and require a new handshake? And I think that so if the pilot is aware and has been made aware of that one error, that sensor's waiting for the running of the autonomous system should reduce its weight, not keep requesting a handshake. That's what I would need. Returns the provable safety status. Written to disk, yes, exactly. So the black box wants to include the safe terminal. This isn't right. Dot test value dot temp c. Oh, this is just for the test. This isn't actually for the black box code itself. Okay, this actually starting to make sense now. So where are we including the test CCP? Black box stabilization. Don't need that. Automation test stabilization, right? Yeah. basically, trying to prevent Skynet. Yeah. My friend Louis sure comes up with the funniest stuff sometimes. Okay, let's see if this builds at all. I'm in so much pain today. I'm not 100% switched on. I'm not trying to add too many new features today. Just trying to consolidate what I have and make sure my AI isn't hallucinating, as my friend Louis says, preventing Skynet. So, yeah. So first thing we do is build. Because if we don't build, we can't do any tests. Oh, I want to see what my research is coming back with. So my tactician's done its job, and my researcher, oh, okay, nice. So you want to add the failure act and the failure to verify metaphors, so I don't have to keep re-explaining the math every single time. He wants to analyze the SWOT of the multiple sensors, good. Formulate the escalation and weight reduction math in the mathematics model. How the weighting of each integer to prevent a linear n-bit matrix expansion. I wonder if I have to bring in one of my other repos, because this is going to start making the PSTA math exponentially more complex. I wanted to just test it as a single binary bit, but really it needs to have the n-bit system. So imagine if you were flying an airplane and you've got like the Lion Air 610, right? So you've got this multi-million-pound airplane, yeah, and you're flying along, and one of the alternators says you're wrong. So you're constantly fighting all the way to the ground as the captain, and you can't just say, shut up, sensor, I know, I can see, I can feel, it's fine, there's something wrong with the sensor. You don't know what it is, but you find out later it's because bees bit a wire, yeah? Now, if you had two of those sensors while you're flying along, yeah, and one of them starts acting dodgy, right? This one is not nominal relative to time. However, this one is, right? So as the captain, you could just say, shut up, I'm taking control, making sure everything's nominal, turn off this warning, and keep this one going. So you can still have the autopilot, right? Why a bee can kill 600 people because of incompetence, I don't know. Define the threshold alarms. I wonder how it's going to do that. I don't think it's going to do that right. I'm worried about step 4, but the rest of it I like. Well, it's on a separate branch. Let's just see what happens. If we don't like it, just tell it to shut up and go back in the stage. That's why I like all this DevOps. So Jules is amazing, right? Because Jules, you can be like, oh, here's my Git repo, and it can do everything on the Git. Every time it makes a new branch, every time you give it a command, it goes to a new branch, right? Yeah? So I can pull that branch and test it locally, get Claude on it, or get anti-gravity on it, or whatever. So if something is beginning to hallucinate, I'm always trying to consolidate it into something that makes sense. And the documentation has to be updated. Because otherwise, the code goes forward, and then the AI comes in, and it doesn't have like a standard operating procedure, right? So it just begins to start hallucinating. So not only do you have to push the code, but you also have to update the standard operating procedure. And this is where this AI Nexus comes into play, which is what I've been doing for the last month. I got a new follower today, so yeah, my notifications don't work. But thank you for the follow. We don't need any of that anymore. Nice. So let's see, because the research one is good. Oh, sorry, I just need a little minute with some coffee. So what? I want to see what it's... Ooh, it's updating the principles, is it? The safety paradox. Ooh, it's put it in the right folder. So my research AI is specific about keeping the documentation and everything in order. So if I was to give a command to my programming AI, it reduces ambiguity. This is just a placeholder for now. That's not actually doing anything. Requirement agreement count. So if I had multiple sensors, I could clamp the agreement. Okay, so this is the threshold of how long... Oh, slow down, you... Sometimes these AIs. Sometimes they're just amazing, and then other times you just want to beat them upside the head. Okay, so... we're going to have to change that, otherwise it's going to get a bit mental. Let's give that a minute. It's really trying to go through all of that at the moment. Let's see what it's doing inside of the Nexus. So, according to the n-bit matrix rather than the 32-bit I think I had before. Dramatically reduce the risk of autonomous takeovers caused by a single faulty sensor. That's the main goal of this mathematical model. Traceable truth provides a clear audit trail in the black box showing exactly which sensor agreed and which disagreed in the moment of intervention. So then that way the pilot isn't fighting the sensors to control the airplane. Mathematical hardening aligns the PST provable trust framework, which is the math I've been stuck on for the last 2 years, which kind of works. If any mathematicians in the audience want to see my white paper and prove my math wrong, feel free. I'll be more than happy to send it to you. Filtering out transient spikes or hardware glitches that only affect a single data path. Yep, that's good. Weaknesses. Increased complexity. It requires more sophisticated logic to track agreement sets and handle heterogeneous sensor types measuring the same reality. Yep, that's obviously going to be the case. Latency overhead. In the Titanic scenario, waiting for multiple sensors to confirm an iceberg might consume precious seconds of reaction time. That doesn't matter because in the Titanic one, you'd identify it 22 minutes in advance with a 15-kilometer LiDAR system relative to the speed that it was going. So you'd have nearly 7 minutes to make a decision. So if it's worried about seconds, it doesn't matter. However, if you were a fighter pilot with like doing things in the milliseconds or seconds, this could become a problem. But then again, you're going to have the hardware to throw at it. The system is only as good as the redundancy of the physical hardware. If there's only one LiDAR, the n-bit matrix collapsed to 1 bit. Yeah, but then we're back to what everyone does nowadays. Calibration sensitivity. If multiple sensors are miscalibrated in the same direction, they can agree on a lie. Correct. Yeah. That's why engineers who build autonomous systems in the future, whenever you're calibrating sensors, you have to be on it. But then again, if you're not on it and you're running it without this system, you're going to run into the same common mode failure. So, opportunities. Sensor fusion integration can be expanded into a full Kalman filter or Bayesian interface. That's where I want to go, Bayesian interface systems, where agreement is weighted by sensor reliability. Yes, thank you. That's where my other model we got to. Now implementing this in Pi and Unreal is going to be very interesting. Autonomous maintenance. If one sensor disagrees with n-bit others, the system can automatically flag that individual sensor, not just that sensor, well, I guess so, for maintenance and reduce its weight. Yep. In real time. Dynamic sensitivity. The agreement count of n could be lowered dynamically in high-risk environments. Yep. Yeah. Because if you're in a high-risk environment and shit's hitting the fan, you don't want an AI to be responsible for everyone on the ship. You want the AI and the human doing it together. Threats. The silent consensus failure. Multiple sensors failing simultaneously due to shared environments. All cameras blinded by sun glare. But that's only if you're using one sense of computer vision. If you're using radar, LiDAR, and computer vision, not all three are going to fail at the same time. The logic bloat. If not implemented carefully, the threshold system becomes a bottleneck for real-time simulation heartbeat. Yeah, well, if you're building a more complex safe system, bloat is inevitable. But it needs to be scalable. User over-reliance. Humans might ignore warnings if they know that AI won't act without end sensor agreement, potentially leading to the Titanic scale failure. Yeah, but then at least you've got a log to prove human incompetence. The n-bit matrix is essential for provable trust. While it introduces complexity and potential latency, the risk of the Lion Air style autonomous failure is unacceptable. One second. Is unacceptable in sovereign system. The implementation must prioritize low latency consensus and clear forensic logging. Yeah, that's how I envisioned it. Oh, nice, I got another follower. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's see what this has actually done. Reduced by the delta. This prevents a confirmed faulty sensor logic from continuously dragging down the PSTA score, I assume. Autonomous inhibition. A Boolean state is acknowledged, prevents the AI from executing corrective intervention. Yes, thank you. The structural integration and the discovery layer. The n-bit matrix. Oh, it's actually put this at the highest point now. Okay, good. To harden the system against failure. To harden the system against sensor failure, critical thresholds can require an agreement count. Correct. An alarm is only elevated to active if n, which is one of the numbers of how many sensors we've got inside of the matrix, distinct sensors or tags within the dimension score from the breach. An alarm is only elevated to active if n distinct sensor or tags within the dimension confirm the breach. Okay, I understand what they're saying there. If agreement is less than n, the state is logged as suspicious would not trigger the autonomous intervention. Good, yeah. Yeah, that's fine. That all falls under the math I've already got. Okay. And then it's added a new principle, which is good. But it's wanting to change the code. I did not give you permission to change the code. Why are you changing code? That is not what you're supposed to be doing, Mr. Researcher. Okay, I don't mind that. Oh, it's made a new alarm configuration. Why are you making a new alarm configuration? Oh. If there are any programmers and you're interested in how I set things up, this is public. I, however, need to go toilet really badly. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm cold and hot at the same time. I get so sweaty when I'm thinking. Oh. I think my strongest muscle definitely is my brain. Oh. So let's think. I kind of want to see what it's doing with this config. Okay, so it's doing it under the Safety Sentinel branch. Oh, we'll check the researcher in a minute. Let's see what the tactician's done. Well, at least they're not breaking and hallucinating now. So, that's good. Alright! You beauty! You fixed 3 of the problems. Or at least for the automation tests. Nice! So what's failing? Okay, I know why that's failing because I haven't finished it yet. Should export log CSV to using exporter. Yeah, that won't pass. Alright, well at least the main ones have passed. Hello, Scrubadoo?
Hello?
Hello, Scrubadoo.
Hello?
Hello, Scrubadoo.
Hello?
Hello,
Hello?
Scrubadoo. Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me?
Louis son?
I can sing the... Oh, there he is.
You're
I
right.
sing the heart of Logan. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I'm still on Twitch if that's alright.
Oh dear.
Just trying to sort out my audio. Hello, hello.
Getting on this Saturday morning.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, my audio's not working the way I want it to. Hello, hello, hello.
By Mr. Acor. For you.
It keeps wanting to send my audio to my VR headset.
Ooh.
And now it's not detecting my speakers.
Ooh.
Ugh. Why is nothing simple in this world? Hello.
Screwing it up.
Oh, fuck off. Hello, hello.
Guten Abend. Hello, Dan.
It's not detecting my speakers now for some reason. Hello, hello, no. No. Ugh, I don't have any bloody sound. I wonder if I could just... Oh, this computer's way too freaking big to do that. Mm. One second, I just need to test my audio because my computer's been an absolute pain in the bottom. Why won't you... You are in Bluetooth mode. Oh, okay, maybe that will fix it. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, it's still coming through the bloody speakers.
Jesus. Hang on.
No, it's alright. I just try to put my headset in because otherwise it gives me rubbish. But
Rubbish.
yeah, you're gonna be...
Yeah, but it's... Hang on a second. Let me just put my earphones in.
Yeah, since I've got this new PC, like... my tower's way too big to put my my headphones in. I'd need a massive cable.
A ginormous cable.
And Georgie broke my wireless headphones, so... Don't have kids, mate. Everything gets destroyed.
I've got no plans. Absolutely no plans to have kids. And I love that for me. Hey, the AI stuff's looking nice.
Pardon?
I'm enjoying the video updates I'm getting for your AI stuff.
Yeah, I've definitely made progress the last month. I was kind of a bit of a slacker because I'm like, I just wanted to stop programming and like change the way the AI communicates with itself, because otherwise I was just going down these rabbit holes of testing and hallucination all the time. So I did like 2 weeks of just like rethinking everything, and I invented this new system called an AI Nexus, and my God, is it better, because it means every AI is like singing from the same sheet.
Right. You got to
And
talk to each other properly.
it makes life a lot easier because they're accountable for their SOP, standard operation procedure. So they don't just like reinvent the wheel every single time. They check like what is standard, and we do it according to the standard.
Don't give away too much of this for free.
Pardon?
I said don't give away. Don't give away too much of this for free. You never know who's going to be, looking to make use of that.
Yeah, I guess. Well, even the AI says I'm like in the top 1% of development right now, but I can't get any attention, dude, for like work or anything. So I'm kind of caught in a conundrum where if I don't make it public, people don't see it. If I do make it people steal it. Meanwhile, I'm burnt out dealing with a baby 6 days a week and 87 hours a week. So
Your options are not limited in that regard. I don't know. I think I've been a little bit cynical. I think it's a good thing that you're sharing it. I don't think there's any bad things. To be honest, on an industry that's basically built on, training models and stolen material, I don't think there's anything wrong with you publishing it for free. Because if somebody steals it, you know it's good.
I know, right? It'd be nice if someone stole it. They would at least acknowledge me, be like, this guy is not just talking out of his ass. You should give him a chance,
Give this lad a chance. Give peas a chance, as they say. Delicious pea.
But what I managed to do today, because I've got 3 AIs going at the moment. I've got my tactician, which does programming, my researcher, which updates my maths and all my protocols, and then I've got anti-gravity just to try and see if it's any good.
Is this anti-gravity a new language model, or?
No, sir. Anti-gravity is kind of like Unreal's new, Google's flagship for AI, right? So Jules, I have to use a browser to interact with Jules.
Okay.
I'll do this, because then you don't have to have the latency of the stream.
It's alright.
So Jules, I have to use like
Web browser, yeah.
a web browser, right? And it's great because if it ever does anything, it links straight to my Git. So it makes it as a new branch. So if it's hallucinated or done anything or made bugs or anything, it's not just changing the main code and everything breaks, right? It makes its own branch, so I can iteratively test and do things, right? So whether it breaks with just like functionally with C++, or if it breaks by like the AI Nexus, as in it starts confusing the other AIs, I can just stop it and delete that branch or fix it, if that makes sense, yeah? And then the problem I have is if I was to use Claude struggles with like the bigger picture, right? But it's really good at like individual tasks. Like if I wanted it to like fix a certain part of the code, or if I wanted it to do automation testing, or like very specific tasks, it's great because then I can basically give it, like in Trello or project management, you can make a ticket. I can give it one ticket and it will just do that one job, and it does it pretty good. You see what I'm saying? But Jules is better at like the bigger picture stuff. So these two work well, because if Jules ever makes a ticket and sends it to Claude will do the ticket, it will update the backlog, so it's like I've done this job and it's passed or it's failed automation tested. So then when Jules picks it back up again, it knows if Claude was successful or if it failed. So then that way everything starts like plodding along. Because if you look here, this is something you might like. I haven't fully fleshed it out yet. So this is where all the code sits, for Unreal. And this is where the project folder for everything with the AI sits. So inside of here...
I'm still looking at your web browser on this in this view.
Oh, is it?
It's going.
There you go.
Lovely.
So I've got this here backlog.
Right, so
So
notepad
all
file.
the tasks that I'm doing, it will be defined on what needs to be done.
Right.
So that way I could just say backlog B002, do this programming, and it will know what it needs to be done with the rest of it, because there will also be like a definition of this ticket as well within the prompt that Jules will send it. And then if it needs to, because the problem I have is Claude can't make files. So
No, it's
it will
probably
make
the
a
best that it
list of
can't
like
anyway.
these things need to be created, so I can send it to Jules. So Jules will make all the files and make sure it fits in within the architecture. Then it will tell it. Then it will tell Claude if something has been done. So you can see here, every time my tasks get done, it like ticks it off. And you'll see here that I'm currently doing this because I'm doing the automation testing, and it said that it's updated the documentation. So then that way it doesn't start hallucinating and then start like doing my matrix and doing this and then doing that and then doing it, and it hasn't finished the first thing. You see what I'm saying? So unless like it actually said that this was complete, and I said no, it's not complete because it's not passing automation testing, so it unticks it and it explains why. And then it knows that when it comes in, like, this is what we're currently focusing on. So it doesn't like just rely on the prompt, if that makes sense. I don't know if you saw the salute protocol that I did, but that's working really nice lately.
Yes, I did.
And then whenever it's
How are you dealing with like the hallucinations then? Like, obviously, if they can't submit code, because
Jules can
obviously
submit code.
you have to
And
merge it
Claude.
in though, right? So
Pardon?
you can just delete. You said that you can just delete a branch when you need to. It's not
Yeah.
going to be automatically merged in. So I guess
Correct.
that helps deal with hallucinations somewhat.
Yeah, well, so I basically say, this is what we've got, this is what I want, and then my researcher goes out and it starts making all the MD files explaining everything so that it doesn't become ambiguous, if that makes sense. So everything's really defined. Yeah? So then I would say, please do this ticket, right? And my personas are not allowed to start programming unless the threshold of ambiguity is at like stupid, like 98% or something like that, 99%. So they're not allowed to assume. So if I'm ever getting caught in like giving oh, it's a really good question what you're asking there, Louis. So it's like there's just so much framework that forces accountability with my prompt and also the AI accepting it to begin, if that makes sense. So what I did is I trained it on Sun Tzu is like the first principle, where if a word of command are not clear and distinct, if the orders are not thoroughly understood, then the general, which is me, is to blame. But if the orders are clear and the soldier, which is the AI, disobeys, then it's the fault of the soldier or the officer, if that makes sense. So what I'm saying to the AI is that if any time I'm doing a delegation, especially from a technical lead to any of the AI agents, it has to be 100% deterministic with what I'm prompting. If it's not, they will come back to me and say, I need this answered or I need that answered. And they'll keep asking me questions until they're at a point where they feel that they're not making assumptions, and only then will they start programming.
So you've done it almost like got it to prompt you rather than it being going on. Yeah, you reverse the kind of the prompting dynamic.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm trying to do it more like the military rather than the way everyone's blabbing about it, because it doesn't make sense to me. Because otherwise, you just put in all the pressure on the person to make these perfect prompts, and it gets to a certain point where it's like, I can't feed in like 50,000 words to make one prompt. I need you to read the standard operating procedures. I need you to understand the research, the mathematics, the current code, and all this other stuff. So if I say, please execute B002, or whatever, it knows instantly what needs to be done, if that makes sense, because there's no ambiguity. Everything's defined in the ticket, in the code structure, and the standard operating procedure before it writes the first line of code. So then when I get it to write code or do anything for me, it has to update all of the procedures in the Nexus and everything, so I can come in, read it, run it locally, test it, do any of the automation, test it, give it back the crash reports or whatever, and then it will just go, oh, I didn't realize this about the Unreal Engine or whatever, and then it will do a couple more bits of code, and then normally I'm not even having to do any of the debugging anymore. It tends to cover most of it itself if I just follow the pipeline.
Nice.
It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was last year.
No, I can imagine it's a lot better than just vibe coding with prompts, which is usually how you end up in 90% of the messes.
Exactly, but I do, like I tell it, I'm a tortoise. I'm slow and steady and iterative. I'm not there to rush and get a prototype running and whatever. I want scalability in everything from inception. So if you were to see here, if I was to like start my day, all I literally do is go 07 researcher, yeah?
Yeah.
And this is basically me going into the office, saluting the AI, going, I want the officer researcher. It will then go in, read through all of the documentation and everything, which will take a while. It will tell me what its current context is, what's missing in the code or the AI Nexus or whatever. It will give me a report, ask me questions and go, do I have permission to continue? Or I need this before I can continue. You see what I'm saying? So I don't have to do this massive, great big prompt. Everything's built into the system and it will come to me like an officer, not like a soldier, and be like, this is today's report, what's the orders for today? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's such a better structure, dude. Or at least from my thing it is. And it's
I think for your way, I think it's definitely a better structure. And I think anything that gets anything removes ambiguity when dealing with a machine that's going to hallucinate like crazy.
Yeah, so you can see here, it's going into the core, and then you'll see it'll go into index, then it will go into other stuff, and it will logically go through each part of the Nexus.
It must be a bit of a nightmare, the file structure.
Pardon?
The file structure must be humongous at this point.
It is getting a lot bigger, yeah. So if you look at the AI Nexus, it's almost as much as the bloody code itself.
Yeah, it's a hell of a thing to manage.
Well, doing that while having a screaming baby sure is fun.
I mean, that's a different level of difficulty. Hardcore solo southbound.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but it does work.
No, I can imagine.
And I've even got a strategic roadmap of what I'm trying to achieve for the company as well, so it knows where we're going in the future. But you'll see here, look, you see that it just went through SOP, backline, timeline. So it's getting all of its personas, all of its mathematics. And all I've said is 07 researcher.
You're going at salute.
That's the most important part.
So this is why you keep sending me 07, because you're doing it to your AI.
Oh, it comes from EVE Online, dude. You know, like, that's...
Yeah, before the salute emoji was added to everything.
Yeah, man.
You'd salute the old-fashioned way.
See? And then look what happens. So Jules takes a lot longer now, but when it works, my God, is it better. Because I'm not having to backtrack on myself all the time now, you know? It's like,
this
if
is
the AI isn't sure, it will
coffee.
tell me it's not sure, you know? It wants to be 100% deterministic, especially with C++, being 100% deterministic is kind of built into the language.
Like it to be, yeah.
So you see here, it's like I've come into the office and I've saluted my officer, and it's basically saying I'm in the researcher position, so it wants to, you know, do what the researcher officer does, not just like the programmer or the tactician, right? Yeah. So it says this is the current assessment and where we are in the code. So it still wants to do the black box protocol.
Yeah.
And it's shown here, to ensure alignment perfectly with your vision with this session is the primary goal to move to like the LiDAR intelligence. or do we want to crystallize the framework for the black box implementation, which this is what I still want to work on because I don't trust it, yeah?
Yeah.
Regarding the discrepancy between B002, which is what I showed you in the backlog, do you require a research audit to ensure the black box implementation perfectly mirrors the message in the bottle? So now it's asking, you know, is the actual ticket correct, basically.
Right. How do you deal with it? Well, your personas. What's your safeguard for it? Just telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah. So if I want to change personas when I'm instantiating something, I just go 07 tactician. So then I know I want to be doing the programming. Or there's also a commander. There's like 4 personas at the moment.
But how do you deal with like them just telling you what you think, it sending you information that you think you want, that it thinks you want to see, rather than what you need?
Can you repeat the question?
Like, how do you deal with the like AI sycophancy? Like, it's sending you like information, not what is actually required, but just what it believes you want to see.
Yeah, that is, I think, always going to be a problem with AI. Because the problem with LLM models is they run off of the principle of predictive systems, right? So if I was to say how much would a woodchuck chuck, it was going to come back, it would chuck it wood as much as it could, as much as a woodchuck would, if that makes sense. Yeah? Because it would go into its history of the things that it knows, and it knows that a woodchuck song always ends that way, if that makes sense. But if you're ever doing something new or innovative, that's when the beginning of hallucination begins. So what you really want to do is iteratively test it with each step. So if you're expecting something innovative or new, the ticket, when you're making something for the AI to program, it should have a definable outcome, which is either yes, it worked, or it failed, if that makes sense. So you don't want to go ahead and be like, here, write 12,000 lines of code. It's like, we want to add this one bit of modularity to it, and if it doesn't pass this test, you know that something is wrong with either the mathematics or the programming implementation. Does that answer your question?
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard one, that one.
It is a hard one, but obviously I'm, as a hot AI skeptic, through and through, I wouldn't trust like 90% of the information I get back from it, even with a solid framework like yours in place.
Yeah. But that's why I'm always skeptical of it. I never believe it until it's proven it. And then every time it's done something, I'm always checking out the branch, checking each individual change, if that makes sense. So if you were to look at one of my branches, I'm sure you're aware of this stuff. So if I was to go into the safety sentinel that I'm building, you'll see that files changed. It will define each part of what is being changed, if that makes sense. Yeah? So I won't include this as truth unless I've tested it, or in my head the math makes sense, if that makes sense. This is the part that I'm kind of struggling with, because what you'd really need is to have other humans not only challenging me, but challenging the output.
You need someone to be testing it, like a human being to test it.
Yeah, which isn't me. Yeah. But from a purely mathematical perspective, it works, because out of the 30 tests, only 2 are failing now when the system doesn't crash, and I can go into it and literally see the values and what I expect to get as the outcome. So you can see here, I can get the black box GUID, you see? So as part of one of the tickets, I should be able to get a GUID from any object that I'm bringing into the system. So I know that that ticket that I created works, because I can go inside of this actor, I can add the black box, I can change the update frequencies. I can define the threshold. All my mathematics configurations are here, but I just haven't built one for the end user. And all of the framework, so I could start doing it in blueprints, is there. So you can see that all my tools are correctly named and here. So if I need to export logs to CSV, if I need to do any of the stuff that I need, I can start making it for the game, if that makes sense. Because I'm trying to make the framework right now. I'm not trying to make the game. So that if I ever wanted to just, you know, check if something can be possessed, or if it can breed, or if it has a black box to replay something, or like, because if I was to do this all in blueprints, it'd basically be impossible.
That's why you went to C++ in the first place.
Yeah. So you need to kind of visualize what you want the AI to do, and give it the command, check the code, check the AI nexus, and then actually playtest the damn thing before you add it into main. You can't just assume the AI is correct.
No, 100%. So your technical architect and QA.
Yep,
All in
and
one.
designer, and tester.
Yeah, QA is tester, same thing.
And write the automation scripts, and project manager, and CEO, and full-time father, and burnt out and broke. But it works. And it's taken me 2 years, but it fucking works.
I think it's something to be proud of that you've struggled through. Like, yeah, these last 2 years have been not particularly easy, but you managed to get this to the point that it's at.
Yeah, and this actually comes from a museum. This I can bring in. So this is the biggest thing I'm working on. So if I was to press play and say, oh, I want to see dinosaur bones from a museum, right? So I've got websites and stuff that I can start pulling in the manifests. So if you look here, I can't interact with this thing. Yeah.
No.
I can possess this thing, but if I come here, this is an object, so I can't possess it, but I can know it's, you see that in the top? Where
You know
blue?
it's something, you can interact with it.
I can interact with it. So if I was to make any functionality where if I was to bring in a dinosaur bone, I could click on it and then the UI would show up and be like, this is a T-Rex bone, it weighs this much, it comes from this museum, you see what I'm saying? So everything becomes subjective in runtime, so you can basically make that my dream of the digital library. But it goes a step further, because not only can you just have an individual object, you can also have a vessel. So if you were to like scan in like a ship, right? And the ship was to have the black box of, you know, where it's going along and then it crashed. If you found that black box, right, you could feed in all the JSON telemetry data, and you could basically play the journey of when it sounded the alarm and everything. Because, you know, I had like the map of the whole world and everything. So you'd be able to like not only represent an individual object, but you'd also be able to play like the autonomous decision making, like 4-dimensional mathematics of an autonomous thing over time. So that's why it's so robust, is because I'm trying to do a lot in an engine which isn't really designed for it.
Unreal not being designed for real work. I never.
I know, right?
That's why if you want to make software that, you know, build drones in, Unity's probably the place to go. This is a joke, by the way. Don't sue me, Unity, please.
Yeah, I've just fallen out of love of Unity, man. But I've managed to bypass Unreal's new object thing, so I can instantiate things on runtime. So the biggest problem that I had with Unreal, I've solved it with my own framework.
Yeah, this is the thing that I remember you starting last year.
Yeah.
Because you were pissed off with Blueprint's slowing you down.
Yeah, I don't use Blueprints really anymore.
He's done with Blueprints. He's not the Blueprints anymore. He's the Sea King.
Yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable in C++ now.
You've been working at this, what, a year and a half now, I guess? Well, pretty much dedicated, well, nearly 2 years, I guess, actually, of just.
It's more like yeah, 2.5 roughly.
Yeah.
Blueprints has been up to 8 years, but
I call him the Blueprints.
yeah, I gave up with Blueprints, man. I was looking at my old YouTube videos, like following my progress. I've come a long way.
100%. I'm pretty impressed with the progress that I've seen in the last 3 years from your videos.
Thanks, man. You are my #1 fan.
Yeah, I am definitely your #1 fan. I'm not, I enjoy supporting. Yeah, it's important with these things. You don't want to ever lose. So especially something like this, you don't want to really lose. Yeah, I help you with your traction. It's just the least I can do, right? So I think with something like this big, you don't want to lose momentum because it becomes a bit of a. Yeah, it becomes so much more difficult to pick up again.
Yeah, it is. I think that's the beauty of the AI Nexus, is if I ever lose momentum, the AI points me where I need to be to continue where I left off.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of documentation and stuff now. So, if I'm in a lot of pain or if my son requires more of my time, I'm not just like having to memorize everything anymore. Everything is very well documented.
I can only imagine on
What time are you leaving for your festival today?
Probably I don't know, probably 2 o'clock, because I need to run an errand first, and then doors open at like 4 p.m. the venue that I'm going to anyway. There's like 5 different venues, I think, today and tomorrow, but so I'm going to be like sprinting across Camden. I could probably go earlier, but this is the opening acts for today, so probably leave here about 2ish and walk up to the electric ballroom for the second or third act there, and then go to the roundhouse and take my seat and just enjoy the music the rest of the day, I imagine. And try not to go bankrupt buying 2 pints of cider.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm not even out drinking today, to be honest. I drank a lot yesterday. My fucking Outlook account got brute force yesterday. The password got fucking cracked. They were trying to fake Eager attack me with fucking a billion pings to authorise the 2FA code. And that was great. So I had to leave. I left the gig early to come back here and fix it. So no more passwords on that account. The password's been deleted, so it's just off app only. But yeah, that was great.
Fair enough.
Password for shit. Get yourself a YubiKey or authenticate that app for everything. Just get rid of the passwords.
Yeah, I've been doing that now. I've got all the authentication app stuff now.
The best way to do it is to get a YubiKey.
I don't know what that is.
Security device is basically a TPM chip. You plug it into the device you want to authenticate with, and it will ask you to enter the PIN and then tap the device, and the device will communicate with the to decrypt it on the other side.
Interesting.
It's really, really good. Nobody's managed to break it yet. It's based on a protocol of FIDO2, I believe it is. I think it's FIDO2. Or we're just chatting shit.
If you can send me a link of that, I'd really appreciate that, because I've been looking into something for that, for the robotics thing that I'm doing.
Yeah. I'll send you. This is the best brand of them. Eco. That's the best ones. Yeah, FIDO2 is the name of the standard.
Yeah, I have looked at FIDO2.
Yeah. Key, whatever you do, always buy 2. Because if you lose the key, you're fucked.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I'm worried with these things.
If you get as many as you bloody can,
they can tie them all together, and then even if they have the pin for the key, it doesn't matter. If they don't have the key, nothing happens. I lived through 2 cyber attacks in the last year. I'm very paranoid about these things now. And Pedro Acosta is on pole. Holy. I'm
Did
actually
you-
looking forward to MotoGP tomorrow. It's going to be sick.
Did you fancy getting a game in or something? Because my brain is kind of mush at the moment.
What time
And
to get a game in?
yeah,
Why not?
I haven't played a
Why
game in
not?
like a week or two, dude.
You have played a little bit of Zomboid, have you? And stuff.
Yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Project Zomboid. Been trying to do like a day here and there, you know, not like a proper session, just like.
Take a yeah, just like a little bit of catch up time. Why not?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. What's when you playing?
Dotes?
Don't bloody hell, I'm rusty. Yeah, why not? I
Yeah?
haven't played in a month. Hey.
Cool. I'm gonna shut down the stream then.
That's really the rustiest game.